Okay, so we're in the middle of chapter 6. We have not had any conversation up until now whatsoever. So we're gonna look more. So this Gideon is chosen. We're in the middle of chapter 6. Gideon is chosen, and he's they're being oppressed by the Midianites, and why not throw a little Amalek in it for fun, because that's what Amalek does. That's again this week's parsha is Amalek, and this angel comes. So we see yet another instance of an angel who appears as a person, and it's not the first time, of course. Avraham Avinu, when he's at the tent and he's greeted by angels. Lot is greeted by angels. Yaakov, when he's leaving and he crosses the ford of Yabok and he encounters an angel, and he has that very, very unusual occurrence. Actually, later in Shoftim, we have the story of Manoach. They're not true. It's only and a series of incidents where after the fact, people realize that, oh my gosh, I was speaking to an angel. Okay, so we've closed off last week saying that sometimes there have been an angel as a messenger, but sometimes there have been people that are sort of sent into your life that you had no expectation of their appearance, and they helped you out tremendously, or you realize, oh my God, this was something special that I happened to encounter this person. And it's happened here, it happens in Israel, it happens in your travels, wherever it might be. Okay. You never know that somebody you met once, like we were on a random ski trip in Aspen and we were stuck in a snowdrift and we met this person, and that guy ends up giving my kid a job, like something crazy like that, which is not so crazy. Okay. So here Gideon, and so the angel says, I see like you're very strong, because they had to work the fields, but they had to do it in secret. So he's doing it in the winery portion, and all of a sudden, he says, "Listen, you're gonna." He says, "I see you're very strong," and he says, Gideon says, "Well, wait a minute. If we're so strong, God's gonna take care of it. Like, where is God? How does God let this happen?" Okay. And he quotes the similar saying that the angel is similar to what we saw in chapter 2. He gives a similar type of dissertation. Hashem took you out of Egypt. You guys didn't listen, etc. And he says, but Hashem forgot about us. So he put the hand of Minyan. So the last thing that we saw is Pasuk Yudalid. So Hashem turned to him and he said, go with the strength of yours and you're going to save Israel from the grip of Midian. Behold, I have sent you. Okay. So now 15. Pasuk Tesvav. Vayomer elav bi Adonai bama oshia es Yisrael hine al pi hadal bimnashe va'anochi atzir bebeis avi. So it's always good when somebody complains. See, how often does this happen in let's say community work? Somebody lodges a complaint, and the next thing they know, they say, "Okay, good. Now you can chair the committee to fix it." And they're like, "Well, I didn't really mean it. I'm just saying, I heard people, maybe, I don't know." That's always the best. That's the best answer. So that's okay. You want to chair the committee? Go ahead. Now, sometimes that's what gets people going, and sometimes that actually works. So he says, Hashem says, "Okay, you're gonna be the one to save Israel. I've sent you." And he goes, "Oh, excuse me, Hashem. I mean, like, Bama Oshia. What with what? Me? Who, me? I'm nothing. How am I going to save Israel? My 1,000 is the most impoverished of Menashe, and I'm the youngest of my father's house. I'm nobody." Now, when he says here, Alfi Hadal b'Menashe Alfi, because this is actually a reference to, again, next week's parsha. A lot of these connect back to the story of Moshe, and we'll see actually Yisro as well a little bit. Yisro gives Moshe advice. Right? He's not the first father-in-law to give advice, but it was the first time that his son-in-law accepted the advice from his father-in-law. And what was the advice? He says, you're doing too much. You have to, right? You have to delegate. You have a system. So we have Sarei Asarot, Sarei Alafim. So he says, Sarei Alafim. He says, I'm only in like the sub category, and I'm the smallest of them. I'm nobody. People love saying that they're nobody. It's like a great classic joke of the, like it's Ne'ilah on Yom Kippur, and the rabbi runs up in front of the open Aron Kodesh, and he's like, "Ribono Shel Olam, I'm nothing, I'm nobody, I'm not worthy." And the president of the shul comes, and he says, "Hey, Ribono Shel Olam, you're right, I'm nothing, what am I do? I don't deserve to be up here." A guy from row J then runs up, and he starts throwing himself in front of the Aron. "I'm nothing, I'm nobody, hey, The rabbi looks at the president. Well, look who thinks he's a nobody now, right? So but so here he seems to, meaning when the delegation comes, he doesn't want the responsibility necessarily. And his first retort is, I am nothing. Now, does this sound familiar? Moshe, right? So let's just take a peek. I want to just read to you the exchange that we have with Moshe. And we're going to have actually a bunch of similarities. Moshe says, first of all, he doesn't know if the people are going to believe him. They're not going to listen to my voice. So Hashem says, okay, we're going to have this little test. Now, this is also important, the notion of a test. So sometimes when you doubt the veracity of somebody's words, you say, prove it. And when they prove it, you're like, okay, fine, I'm in. You know, whether it's somebody wants to invest your money and you say, show me your returns. Okay, prove it. Or you're really that strong. Here, lift up the car. There you go. Or you're really a messenger of God. Show it to me. So and that's what's going to happen. Gideon's actually going to ask for a test to prove it. So Hashem says, okay, here, stick your hand in and you have your your staff, and the staff is going to turn to this, and that. It's going to put your hand in. It's aroused back. We know the tests. Okay, we saw that in Parsha Shmos a couple of weeks ago, and if they don't listen to the first sign, they'll listen to the second sign, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So then Moshe said, okay, so after seeing that, okay, I mean, you did the hand and the Napoleon, and it's no more, and the snake and the stick, and it's back. It's like, okay, that should be good enough, right? Well, that's pretty convincing. So maybe Moshe was so much for Litvak. He didn't believe in these things. But actually, he wasn't. He was a Sephardi. He was Egyptian. Moshe, you're going to meet him. He's going to have a giant kippah sruga, like a giant, like white keppel. I'm telling you. He's not going to have a... Okay? So he says, Moshe says, I'm going to read to you in English. Moshe replies to Hashem, I'm not a man of words, not since yesterday, not since the day before yesterday, not since you first spoke to your servant. I am heavy of mouth and heavy of speech. Of course, this brings to light the famous medrash that Moshe had a speech impediment because of the coals and the thing with the coal. Okay, it's a cute medrash, but he says that he can't speak. Hashem says, and who makes a mouth for man? Who makes one dumb or deaf or sighted or blind? Is it not I, Hashem? So go, I'll be your mouth. Don't worry about it. I'll tell you what to say. I'm going to put the words in your mouth. You don't have to worry about what to say. So he says, please, send whoever you will send. So then he rejected God a few times, and then finally Hashem gets angry with him. So here what happens is, he says, who am I? Who am I to be sent? Okay, I'm the youngest of I'm the youngest of the young, which, by the way, would not be so tragic of a situation, as we see the pattern throughout Tanakh, where a younger one can overtake an older one. Hashem says, for I will be with you, and you will strike down Midian as if it were a single man. Now, this line should be very familiar, because Hashem says to Moshe almost the same exact phrase. Let me just pull it up in the Hebrew. He says, first of all, he says, Anochi eheyeh im picha. And he says, eheyeh im picha v'im pihu. And he says a very similar phrase a couple of times. Of Anochi eheyeh im. Hashem says, I will be with you. And even, by the way, in the Chumash itself, it's interesting. It's a name of God. When it says words eheyeh, and then it says Asher, and then it says eheyeh. That's actually a name of God. So when you say it, you say Ekeh Asher Elkeh, because you don't want to say Hashem's name in vain. So that's this. He says, but he's saying, like, the name eheyeh, I will be with you, and you will smite Midian like they are, like it's one man. You think you're nobody? Guess what? They're even less of anybody. They're nobody-er. Vayomer Elav, im na matzas ichem beinecha v'asisa li os she'ata medaber imi. He says, okay, so Gideon, he's very strong, but apparently he's got like a lot of chutzpah also. I really don't want this job. And he says, okay, you really want me to do it? If I found favor in your eyes, then do me a favor. Give me a sign. Give me a sign that it's really you who's speaking with me. Al nasa mush mizeh ad boilecha v'tzitzias min chasi v'hinachti l'fanecha, v'yomar anochi eshev ad shivecha. Please don't depart from here until I return to you. I'll bring forth a tribute and place it before you. And he says, fine, I'm going to stay before it. And again, this is the Malach speaking in the name of God. It's a Navi, it's a Malach, whatever. And he says, all right, I'm going to be right back. I have an idea. And he says, like, okay. The Gidon ba vayas gidi izim ve'ifas kemach matzos habasar sam basal v'hamarach sam baparur v'yosei elav el tachas ha'ela vayagash. So he goes back. He goes inside. He comes back. He prepares a young goat and matzahs from an ephod flour. Now, remember, we said last time it was matzahs because this was Pesach. That the angel arrives to him. It's the night after Pesach.
I said that Pesach is like a recurring theme on angels that Abraham also made, but it wasn't. How could it be Pesach with Abraham?
Ah, you ask a brilliant question. See, Rashi said there. We said Pesach Haya. How could Lot made matzahs because Pesach? It was Pesach. So there's a. Yeah, no, it's a phenomenal question. I would direct your attention to the interpretation of the Beis Halevi. I don't have time to go through it all right now, but if you have access, if not, I can get it to you. The access to the Beis Halevi. The Beis Halevi's theory is that if I ask you, like, why do we observe Pesach? Because it's on the calendar and the ShopRite's already switching over the aisles. That's why, right? It's less than 2.5 months away.
I think I'm worrying about Pesach.
When I have to make 2 weddings in an hour, right? Who cares about Pesach?
You can't scare me with
Pesach is nothing. Right? Yeah. She's like Pesach. Yeah. 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 I had my aunt and uncle did that. They did 2 weddings in a month and then a 3rd wedding like 3 months later. So they did 3 like. Oh man, they still like I don't think they recovered from that. I mean, I wanted to like during COVID, I wanted to like knock them all off and do like 5 girls in the backyard, 25. Exactly. I don't care if they were not. She was 9, so what? But like a $25 wedding, done. Gonna shine, gefilte fish, sponge cake.
I don't know why we have to go back to these big things.
Yeah.
It's a good life lesson.
Yeah, the girls get involved. They have opinions apparently. It's so annoying. Anyway, because the Yetzias Mitzrayim. Why do we eat matzah on Pesach? Because when they were rushing out, that's why they had to eat matzah.
Even though they told the night before. Right. And they had
Right.
3 days of darkness.
So Beis Halevi says no, that's actually a misnomer. Is that Hashem decided that a certain time of year is going to be Pesach for whatever reason, and to observe the holiday of Pesach and to eat matzah. Later, Hashem puts into place reasons that help us understand and enhance our appreciation of the holiday, but that's not the reason why. It's an enhancer of the reasons. In other words, Pesach was always there. Pesach was observed. That's the whole notion of like the avos, they kept the Torah. It's hard to understand. That's his basic premise. It's really worth looking at. But that's a good question. The Beis Halevi, yeah. Rabbi Yosef Dover Rav Soloveitchik is the Rav Soloveitchik's great grandfather. Who I think it's actually in English now, even the Beis Halevi. It's in Vayera. It's in Vayera, the Beis Halevi. It's also found in the Beis Halevi's Haggadah. Really, if you remind me, maybe when we get close to Pesach and we do a little Pesach Torah, we could do that. But if you remind me, but I have to. There's no guarantee I'll remember by then.
How could that be? Because he was making a goat in milk, so he wasn't doing kosher, but he was doing Pesach. I mean, am I missing something?
No, he didn't. It wasn't a goat in milk. It was milk then inflation. And it says he did one then the other.
A little culture that he says that they always used to make matzot for guests because they baked for
Yeah, no, that's again, that's the Litvish explanation. Yes, no, that is why. That's why they say that Lot also that. So Rashi says, in other words, the question's not Rashi. The question is not why he made matzah. The question is why does Rashi say Pesach Chaya? That's the real question. Actually, this past week in the morning shiur, Avisha gave a shiur. It's a well-known Torah connecting Yetzias Mitzrayim and Sodom, and a lot of similarities between that story of Lot and the angels, and like that's the original sort of precursor of Yetzias Mitzrayim and the whole notion on the house and the Korban Pesach. A lot of similarities there. So there's a lot to talk about. So here, he picked quickly. Like, what do you want? You make something quickly. Like if I'm gonna cook, if I'm gonna go out cooking, I'm making like a good piece of toast. I'm very good. I can cook toast like nobody. I'm very good at that. That's where it ends. It's exactly where it ends. So, or it was Pesach. So he takes the meat, the matzahs, he puts them on a rock. He says, I'm sorry, and he if he put the meat in a basket, he put the broth in a pot, he brought it between the elm and he presents it. So then the angel, Vayishlach Malach Hashem, I'm sorry, Vayomer Elav, Malach Elokim. So the angel of God then says to him, Kach es habasar v'esamatzos v'hanach es hasela haloz v'esamarak shefuk v'yaskein. He says, take the meat and the matzahs, place them on the rock, then pour out the broth. It's like, I just made the soup. You want me to spell out the soup? Like, well, okay. You asked for a sign, here it is. And the guy's telling you, at least you got to trust him. That's the sign. Vayishlach malach Hashem es ktsei hamish'enes asher biyado, vayigaba basar v'matzos, vatahal ha'esh min hatzur, vatochal es habasar v'samatzos, malach Hashem halach me'enav. The angel of heaven, he stretches out the edge of the staff that was in his hand. He touches the meat and the matzahs. A flame goes up from the rock and consumes the meat and the matzahs. Then, poof, he's gone. Okay. It's like you give a little zap. Now, a few things that are at play here. So first of all, it's not the first time that we've heard of something miraculous taking place with fire. Sometimes for destruction, sometimes for miracle. Let's say you think about Elio and Hara Carmel. You think about these types of incidents, but also the notion of stretching out the staff. A lot of this, there's always some sort of vehicle that's used, some sort of medium that's used. So here he takes the staff and he's like, stretch it out. And it's almost to show like it's not the person personally, not using your hand, it's the staff. Moshe, we're reading all the makos with the staff, et cetera, and he touches the meat and the matzahs, and they're super well done, and that's why I told him to spill out the broth, so you wouldn't think that there's anything burning there. Okay, anyway, and boom, he's gone. Now, Vayar Gidon ki malach Hashem. Okay, I believe you. Now you're a malach. Okay, I believe that you're a malach of Hashem. Vayomer Gidon, aha, Hashem Elokim. Ki al kain or isi malach Hashem panim al panim. And he says, and much like we've seen, people discover, like Yaakov wakes up, I didn't realize I was, lo nodati ki ein zeh ki im beis elokim v'zeh shar shemayim. I didn't realize this is the place of God and this is the gate to heaven. I didn't realize he was an angel. It's a lot of like I didn't realize. And he says, oh my gosh, my Lord Hashem Elokim, in as much as I've seen an angel of Hashem face to face, panim al panim. Also, the similar phrase which Moshe uses when referring to his communications with God, it's always this panim el panim, this face to face. So it's drawing a lot of similarities, but at the same time, I don't think anybody's comparing Gidon necessarily to Moshe Rabbeinu. That there's somebody, and this is one of the lessons actually throughout the book of Shoftim, and the Gemara says is Shmuel B'doro, Yiftach B'doro, that each generation has it has its own great leader. That doesn't mean necessarily that they're comparable. So it's one of the very early Rashis in Chumash when it says Noach ish tzaddik, tamim haya b'darasav. So Rashi gives a machlokas. He says he was a tzaddik. Was he a tzaddik only in his generation, or had he been with Avraham, he'd be a nobody, or even next to Avraham, he'd be a tzaddik. So this idea of in the generation. So Gidon for his generation, he's the one that's chosen. He's a bit reluctant at first, okay, which is not unusual. We've seen that before. He has some amazing signs that are performed for him, which we saw similar to Moshe, and he recognizes and he sees it. And then he says, Vayomer lo Hashem shalom lecha al tira lo tamus. So then he says, Hashem says, shalom lecha. Peace be upon you. Don't worry. You're not going to die. It's like very matter of fact. It's not like you're not going to fail. You're not going to mess up. No, you're not going to die. Okay. Vayiven sham Gidon mizbeach l'Hashem vayikra lo Hashem shalom adayam hazeh odena ba'afrat avi ha'ezri. He builds an altar there to Hashem, and he calls it Hashem is the source of our peace, and that's there at Ofra of the Avi Ezri. Now, we have very, very important halacha that comes out of here, because it's called Vayikra lo Hashem shalom. Shalom. When we say shalom, what does shalom mean? Shalom means a bunch of things. Shalom means hello. Shalom means goodbye. Shalom means peace, right? But shalom is actually based on this pasuk right here. We learn, and halacha teaches us that shalom is actually a name of Hashem. It's one of the names of God. God has a lot of names, and so what difference does it make? there's no way to like not say shalom. We don't say like shakom, like we say adoshem or something like that. So we don't, but however, there's a halacha in Hilchas Birchas HaShachar early on in the Shulchan Aruch that says that in the morning before you daven and before you said brachas, you shouldn't say shalom aleichem to anybody because it's really offering the name of Hashem before you've blessed properly. So when we say shalom aleichem, okay, and it's not just peace upon you, it's not just hello, but it's also may God be upon you, right? Salam alaikum salam. They kind of took that from us, I think. But shalom aleichem is that, and by the way, that's and we saw this is the greeting that was given. We saw it in the when the angel comes to greet him, right? And he says, Hashem imecha gibor hachayil. Hashem is with you. So this is a similar thing. It says Hashem is with you, Shalom is with you. So that's it should just give you sort of another insight when you say to somebody Shalom Aleichem. It's more than just a greeting. It's actually it's a bracha, saying God should be with you. It's a nice bracha. Okay. So now we have our soldier, we have our mission. Now what has to happen? So let's see what happens. Now he has a problem because if the people were destroying idols. If the people were worshiping idols and you're in charge and you have to bring them back to the Hashem side, so then you're going to have to do a bit of internal destruction. You're going to have to kind of deal with your own people because, being in this leadership position is not easy, especially if it means that you have to draw your people away, your constituents away from something that they hold to be beloved, even though they're suffering for it, but still it's going to be very difficult. And that's a pattern throughout all of Tanakh. So, Vahi balayla hahu, again, everything happens at night. Chatzi halayla layla hahu. Vayomer lo Hashem kaches par hashor shel avicha upar hasheni sheva shanim v'harastas mizbech es mizbach habaal asher la'avicha ve'es ha'ashera asher alav tichros. So he goes right into it. Here's what you got to do. Hashem says to him on that night, no wasting time. Take a young bull that belongs to your father and the second bull, which is 7 years old. Break apart the altar of the Baal that belongs to your father and cut down the Asherah tree that is near it. So those are the two biggest forms of idol worship at the time, Baal and Asherah. Baal is, however, they used to worship Baal. Asherah is the tree they used to worship. It was a very sacred tree. And then what do you have to do? Uvanisa mizbeach l'Hashem elokecha al rosh ha'ma'oz hazeh b'ma'arecha v'lekachta es par hasheni v'alisa olah ba'atzei Asherah asher tichros. Then you have to build an altar for Hashem, your God, atop a strong rock on a level place. Take a second bull and offer it up as an elevation offering. And what are you going to use to burn it? You're going to use the wood of the Asherah that you will cut down. Now, sometimes when we destroy Asherah trees or different forms of Avodah Zarah, we're not even allowed to have any hana. You can't have any benefit from it. Here he has a direct commandment to use the item that was for Avodah Zarah and use it to serve God. But that's kind of like an additional shtach. Like, okay, this is, let's do that, okay? Vayikach Gidon asara anashim avadav, vayas kasher diber elav Hashem, vayikasher yarei space aviv as anshe irmei asos yomam vayas laila. So he took 10 men from his servants. He did as Hashem spoke to him. But, he's going to get a bit of a pushback from this. He doesn't want to make a big tumult here. So what happens is, I don't really want to do it in the daytime. Maybe it's better off if we do it at night when nobody's looking. What does this kind of remind you of a little bit? The story that he has to go destroy, like in his father's house, he has to destroy his Avodah Zarah.
Abraham.
Yes. Avraham and Terach. Which remarkably, by the way, does not appear in the Chumash. The whole episode of Terach being an idol worshiper, nothing, it's all found in the Medrash, and the Ramban has a lengthy discourse there in end of Noach, beginning of Lech Lecha, as to why the early stages of Avraham's life. Avram is first mentioned in the Chumash, meaning like his career starts, he's 75 years old. What happens before then? We don't know why they feel it's not important. The Ramban there, Nachmanides discusses it, but a similar type of feel where you have to, make a move against your own family, which is challenging. So that tests the mettle of the leader and whether you can perform his mission. Is that your own people, I get it, your neighbors, but your own family, that gets to be tough. When you have to, and it's also kind of the story of the golden calf, Mila Hashem Elai, in the house of Levi. And he says, you're going to have to kill your own relative, your own relations. You're going to have to do all these types of things. That's what happens. So he decided he's going to do it at night. So some look at this as a bit of a negative that, that is sort of not, he's not so willing to do the mission necessarily. Okay, different ways of looking at it. Okay, take it as you will. Vayashkimu anshe ha'ir baboker, v'hinenu tatz mizbacha ba'al v'asher asher alav karasa, v'sapar sheneho la'al mizbecha banoi. So they get up early in the morning, probably get up for, Shachris at the Baal. And, I guess they didn't make too much of a ruckus at night. I don't know how big this altar was. I don't know how big the Baal was. I don't know how big the Asher is. I guess you could do it without making a big fuss. They get up early in the morning. Oh, the altar of the Baal was broken and the Asherah tree that was near it is cut down. And the second bull is offered up on the newly built altar. What's going on here?
What's happening to the first?
That was the one helping to pull it down. I don't know. See, it helps pull down the one. That's why you need the young one to help pull down the. Yeah. The people wake up, so they see that it's gone. Oh, what happened? So they said, like, Vayomeru ish el reyehu mi asa hadavar hazeh. Vayidrishu, vayivakshu, vayomeru Gideon ben Yoash asa hadavar hazeh. So they said, who did this? Okay, it's like, when you walk into school and it's a senior prank and like, well, who put like the principal's car in the hallway? How did that happen? How do these things happen? And everybody's up in arms and they're trying to figure out. So of course, it doesn't take that long. Vayidrishu, vayivakshu, Doresh. They look into something, vayivakshu, you ask around, it's not that hard to figure out who does these types of things. Something like this. Exactly. They pulled up the footage. They pulled up the motion detector. They ring detectors. If anybody here have a Ring camera, so the best part about the Ring camera is the alerts that you get from people who post things on these. You get like those messages.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the greatest entertainment ever.
Yeah.
It's there was a fox on the street, or there was ice on the street.
What about the old TV that they put out and it was stolen thinking it was a new TV? It's the best.
Yeah.
This is on the Ring app.
On the Ring app, you could get these alerts. Oh, it's
Yeah.
such good, and especially with the drones lately, and a drone saying, drones. It's gewaldic, okay? Yeah. No. So what Yafi's referring to is a great video of somebody who got a new TV and then he put the old TV inside the box and left it on the porch. Because that's usually what you see is the porch raiders. People will steal your Amazon packages, whatever. So somebody stole it. He said, what a great way to get rid of an old TV. You put it in the new box and somebody came and stole it, right? So it's one of the greatest, it's really one of the greatest forms of entertainment. Like when you're just having a down day and you just read those Ring apps, those alerts, it's gold. It's a lot of people with a lot of time on their hands. So they checked the Ring camera and they figured out, and lo and behold, guess what? It's Gideon ben Yoash. So notice who they do. They don't go to Gideon, they go to his father. Vayomeru anshe ha'ir el Yoash, Hotzeis bincha v'yamos, ki natatzas mizbach habal, v'chi charas ha'asherah asher alav. So they said, Yoash, you're one of us. You're a Baal worshiper. You're an Asherah worshiper. Bring out your son, and he's going to die because he broke the altar of the Baal and because he cut down the Asherah tree that was near him. So Yoash has to think quickly. You wonder if people on a certain level, when they're involved in frivolous activity, or if they're involved in something that they know is not true. Now, you can do something long enough or say something long enough that you begin to believe it. That's entirely within the realm of human psychology and possibility. But sometimes when you're involved in something that you just know is wrong and you continue to do it for whatever reason, but at some point you realize this is wrong, and like you hit a crossroads, and what am I going to do about it? So Yoash is at those crossroads. And Vayomer Yoash, he has quick thinking. Vayomer Yoash Chol Asher Amdu Alav. This is why I mentioned the story of Avraham, because it's going to be reminiscent of that as well. So he says to those people standing Amdu Alav. Okay. Now here they translate standing near him, but Alav is like standing over him, it's like a mob almost, like they're ready to pounce. Hatem tirivun lebal imatem toshino so imirivlo yamaz haraboker imelahimu yarevlo kinatatzes mizbecho. Are you going to take up the Baal's grievance? Will you save him? Whoever aggrieved him should die by morning. If Baal is a god, it will take up its grievance against him for breaking its altar. Right? Isn't that the story of Avraham and Terach? What did Abraham say when they came and he said, you destroyed my idols? He says, oh no, one idol, they got into a fight with the other one and he fought, he smashed it. And Terah's like, really, you really think they can, taste the soup. You know the taste of soup, right?
No,
You don't know.
no.
Okay, first of all, it appears in the movie Coming to America. I think it's in the closing. I think it's in the closing credits. Eddie Murphy and the other guy.
Not Chevy Chase.
No. He had a late night talk show for a lot of years. It was terrible. He always used to do this late night. Oh my gosh, it's gonna drive me crazy. Anyway, they both play. Yeah, they both play like several characters in those scenes. Like one plays the barber in the barber shop. It was the barber, one's this one. So he says and one guy plays like an old Jewish guy. He's like, a guy goes into the restaurant and he orders a soup and he says, the wait, taste the soup. He says, I don't want to taste it. Taste the soup. Taste the soup. He's like, I don't want it. He goes, taste the soup. And he says, okay, give me the spoon. He goes, that's his way of telling wait he didn't have a spoon. So so like he's like, the idols beat each other. He says, Yoash is like, I'm with you. I get it. Thank you, Arsenio Hall, because he did have that late night talk show. Thank you to the Google Rebbe.
Say that was very impressive.
Yes, the Google Rebbe prevailed.
You're being annoyed, right?
Yes, I was going to be annoyed, and I was going to look it up afterwards. I'll admit I did not watch the second one because after seeing the reviews that you don't want to ruin a good thing by watching a sequel. That's just not worth it. If they have to make a sequel like 30 years later, it's just not worth it. Okay, so he says, okay, you want to fight for the Baal? The Baal's a god. The Baal should be able to handle his own business. What do you need me for that? Okay. So so on that day, Yeshua named him, Yoash named him Yerubaal. So this is how he's going to become known. Gideon is actually Yerubaal because he's saying, let the Baal take up the grievance against him for breaking its altar. Yeru, like they're gonna have this fight. This fight. Okay, let's see the end of the chapter now. All of Midian, Amalek, and the people of the east, they gathered together. They crossed the Jordan and camped in the Jezreel Valley, which you could easily go to today. You see the Jezreel Valley; it's really nice there. And what happened? V'ruach Hashem lovsha es Gidon, v'yidka b'shofar v'yizaik Aviezer acharav. The spirit of Hashem clothed Gidon. He blew the shofar, and the family of Aviezer was there. They gathered, went after him. Umalachim shalach b'chol Menashe v'yizaik gam hu acharav. Malachim shalach ba'asher b'zvulun v'naftali v'alol l'kasam. So again, you're talking from all different parts of the country. And what happens? They messengers go throughout Menashe and they come after him. Messengers go to Asher, Zvulun, Naphtali up in the north, and they come to confront them. Okay. Vayomer Gidon El Ha'elokim im yeshcha Mashiach biyadi as Yisrael kasher dibarta. He says, if you wish to save Israel through my hand as you spoke, then Hinei anochi matzig es gizas hatzemer bagoren. If you're going to save Israel, like you said, through my hand, I'm spreading out a fleece of wool on the threshing floor. If there will be dew only on the fleece and the entire ground will be dry, then I will know that you will help Israel through my hand as you have spoken. So he's like, yes, asking for yet another sign. You always got to be sure. Vayichein, and it was. Vayashkim imacharas. Vayazar es hagiza, vayimet tal min hagiza, malah sefel mayim. He gets up the next morning, he squeezes the fleece, he pressed dew from the fleece, a full bowl of water. Okay? Vayomer Gidon Elo Elokim, al yichra b'cha bi v'adabra chapam, anasena racha pam b'giza, yihina chorev el giza levadav al kol aretz yatal. He says, okay, yeah. And by the way, achapam, we see it. If you see it by Shimshon, we're going to see that achapam. We see it a few times in Tanakh. Achapam. It's like, don't be angry with me, and I will speak only this time. I will test, but this time through the fleece. Let there be dryness only on the fleece, and let there be dew on the entire ground. Vayashkein. I'm sorry. Vayasa lakim kain b'laylahu. Vayich chorev el hagizel v'adav al kol aretz hayatal. And he Did the same thing on that night. There was dryness only on the fleece and there was dew on the entire ground. It's dry, it's wet, it's wet, it's dry. Okay. I think maybe it's interesting. I just found it interesting that the word Vayhi Chorev appears. Chorev or Chorev. Chorev, of course, is a name for, we use Har Chorev. We talk Har Chorev is a place of the ultimate belief. Maybe this is kind of a play on the words there. I'm not sure. But he asks for these, and then so just if you notice that the paragraph ends with the beginning of the next chapter, right? The Perek Zayin Pasuk Aleph, so it says, "Vayashkem Yerubaal hu Gidon v'chol ha'am asher ito v'echanu al ein charod u'machaneh b'dion al mitzafo migavas amar ba'emek." So Yerubaal, who's Gidon, in case you were wondering why it has to say that again, I don't know. He gets up early with all the people. When you get up, when you're doing, now this shows getting up early because when you act with alacrity, like Avraham Vayashkem Avraham Baboker, always Baboker means Zriza Makdim el mitzvahs. You want to do things quickly. Then all the people with him, they encamp near Ein Charod. The camp of Midian was to his north from the hill of Moreh in the valley. So the next chapter, we're going to see the actual the battle. So this is a lot. By the way, he gets a lot of airtime. Gideon. It gets like 3 chapters here. Gideon, Yerubaal, and it's sort of and because we have a lot of his character development or his development in his role is given, which we haven't seen before. So this again shows this newer section of the Sefer, which we hadn't seen because again, as we go further away from Sinai and further away from settling the land, further away from, it's like less righteous. They kind of like need a little bit more help. And they need to do more. So like a test and another test, and I'll just say one more thing, and like, oh, I just want to ask for one more thing. Let me ask for one more thing.
Concept of things as a chazaka comes from?
Mm,
Why do you keep asking for more?
I think he just needed a reassurance because I think he has some character issues, but that's not where it comes from. But there is, I mean that's well rooted in, yeah, the fleece and dry, wet, it's yeah. So we'll see more of this. I don't know. They want, it's like you need to fill it out in triplicate. It's like a government form. Yeah, I don't know, but we'll see more of this as we go on. But a lot of battle, but it doesn't end. There's a lot of happens again after the battle as we continue. So yes, Yerubaal, yes, and don't forget your red strings. Have a good day.